Authoritarian governments are spreading influence in the U.S. by buying up lobbyists and U.S. politicians. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. America is supposed to have a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Turns out it's actually money that rules. And authoritarian regimes have a lot of money to spend. Regimes like China and Russia are hard at work bribing and influencing American businesses, lobbyists, and politicians. The scary thing is, America is actually better off than many other countries, because there are at least some laws to counter foreign influence. In response to Nazi propaganda efforts, the U.S. passed the Foreign Agents Registration Act in 1938, or FARA for short. FARA keeps a transparent record of when people are lobbying or otherwise acting for foreign governments. Thanks to FARA, we've seen in recent years how more and more politicians are leaving office to work as lobbyists for foreign clients. In 2016, Politico found that 114 former members of Congress since 1990 lobbied for or otherwise represented a foreign government, foreign-owned company, or think tank. That includes authoritarian countries like Russia and China. Because when you're retired, you need hobbies. And for politicians, getting paid a fortune to help brutal authoritarians push propaganda is apparently way more popular than bird watching. Legally, lawmakers can begin lobbying 1 or 2 years after they leave office. The U.S. Constitution guarantees the right to petition, and this includes lobbying. Lobbyists for foreign countries just need to make sure they are registered under FARA and disclose their activities. But the fact that former members of Congress are shaping public opinion and policy decisions according to their clients' needs, as opposed to America's needs, is concerning. Why can't they just enjoy bird watching like I do? They're majestic, elusive creatures. Learn to appreciate nature's splendor, you shills. Russia has had a lot of former congressmen serve its interests. Some former lawmakers have had Russian banks like Sovcombank and VTB Bank as their clients. The banks needed them to deal with sanctions imposed on Russia for its 2014 invasion of Crimea. Take former Representative John Sweeney. Back in 2019, he signed on to help Russia's largest state-owned bank deal with potential new sanctions. Sweeney, along with former congressional staffers, also worked on behalf of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the project that made Europe even more dependent on Russia for natural gas. Millions in lobbying spending were poured into the fight over Nord Stream 2 sanctions. It took this year's invasion of Ukraine for former congressmen and their firms to end their work with the Russians. It's like, instead of taking away a drunk person's car keys, you insist they drive, get in the front seat with them, ignore all the mailboxes they run over, then are suddenly shocked when they declare war on Ukraine. Will U.S. politicians ever learn? That wasn't rhetorical. The answer is no. Not if money is involved. Some lobbyists are just drawn to help sanction companies, like former Senator David Vitter and Toby Moffett. They didn't just lobby for Russia's Sovcombank. They were among those who lobbied for Hikvision, a Chinese state-owned company that provides surveillance equipment. That'd be like lobbying for Jason to get a machete. What's the worst that could happen? Vitter said in a leaked 2019 conference call that he wanted to make sure Hikvision survived in the United States. That didn't really work out since Hikvision was blacklisted by the U.S. government later that year. But Vitter slammed U.S. restrictions on Hikvision and unashamedly sided with China. He said, "I'm proud of my work with Hikvision because it's based on very concrete, meaningful changes to business practices and corporate governments in support of human rights." Yeah, working with the company that helps Xinjiang police ensnare Uyghurs totally screams human rights, about as much as Jason with machete screams camping safety. China has had a lot of former congresspeople working as lobbyists on its behalf. And they're helping some big-name companies like Tencent, Alibaba, and TikTok. How can authoritarian regimes get away with this much influence? Besides that, of course. I'll explain after the break. Welcome back. Authoritarian countries are grabbing more and more influence in the U.S. thanks to their top lobbyists. former members of Congress. The U.S. has FARA to counter foreign influence, but FARA has long suffered from interpretation, compliance, and enforcement problems. Really? Since when has a U.S. document led to interpretation, compliance, and enforcement problems? Oh, yeah. In 1995, FARA was amended to exempt lobbyists who represent foreign companies if the work is not intended to benefit a foreign government or political party. Lobbyists could instead register under the Lobbying Disclosure Act. But the criteria is pretty vague, and registration under the LDA is a lot less transparent than FARA. This has led to a dramatic drop in FARA registrations. Gee, I wonder why. That'd be like telling people they can either report their income to the IRS or to a blind guy that says, I hope you're being honest because I have no way to come after you if you weren't. Some politicians have, in fact, tried to just bypass the legal route by lobbying without FARA registration, funneling funds through nonprofits, and straight up lying to the authorities. Former Congressman Mark Siljander did all that. He was arrested after being hired by the Islamic American Relief Agency, an Islamic charity with ties to international terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, even Osama bin Laden. Probably tried defending himself by saying, oh, I didn't realize it was a terrorist charity. I thought it said save the children, not slave the children. But successfully prosecuting lobbyists for violating FARA isn't easy. Up until recently, FARA relied on voluntary compliance, and the government rarely pursued enforcement, which is ridiculous. Relying on politicians to use the honor system is like relying on your one moocher friend to actually bring something to the potluck dinner this time, instead of just showing up, eating everyone else's food, and leaving without helping clean up again. Todd. There's been pressure for more scrutiny, but one big problem is that FARA rarely prosecutes criminal cases. That's because it's really hard to prove willful violations. A violation is willful only when the violator acts with knowledge that the conduct was unlawful. This is a high standard for a prosecutor to establish beyond a reasonable doubt, particularly given FARA's vague terms. And I can't think of anything in the world harder to prove than the idea that a politician knows what they're doing. But even if lobbyists comply with the law, they can still pose a threat to us by being incentivized to help authoritarian adversaries in the first place. There's a question of whether former members of Congress should be allowed to lobby at all. And not just them, what about other senior government officials? Like, say, former U.S. military leaders. Take retired General John Allen, president of the D.C.-based think tank Brookings Institution. U.S. authorities accused him of making false statements and withholding incriminating documents while he illegally lobbied for Qatar. The FBI probe into his potential crimes forced Allen to resign. I'm sure the Brookings Institution really wanted to distance itself because it too has been getting tons of foreign money in less than transparent ways. Such well-known think tanks as the Brookings Institution, the Aspen Institute, and the Baker Institute have spent years taking millions from autocratic and despotic governments without any requisite disclosure requirements. Is that why they were able to afford the fancy water coolers in the break rooms? The ones with the digital temperature control system? You've been making your employees sip on corruption. For shame. The same goes for universities and cultural centers. To fix FARA's flaws, Congressman Jared Golden sponsored a bipartisan House bill called the Fighting Foreign Influence Act. It seeks to curb foreign influence in U.S. democracy by imposing a lifetime ban on members of Congress, senior military leaders, and senior executive branch officials from lobbying for a foreign government. The legislation would also compel tax-exempt groups, including think tanks, to disclose high-dollar donations and gifts from foreign powers, and require political campaigns to verify that donors have a valid U.S. address. So far, this bill has just been introduced to Congress, but hasn't gotten any further. Gee, I wonder why. So for now, when it comes to authoritarians buying former politicians and military leaders, every day is Black Friday. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. And if you like the show, remember that we rely mainly on direct support from viewers like you. All it takes is as little as $1 per episode over on our crowdfunding website, Patreon. Visit patreon.com/AmericaUncovered for more. Click the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.